Stop running down the meh and mundane hallways of life and tap into the magical. My name is Michelle Shutter. I am a life and leadership coach for women and host of the Life Coaching Classroom podcast. I'd like to welcome you to Life Coaching Classroom, where we walk with you in the hallways of life so you can align to the beautiful expansiveness of your true self through reconnection, reinvention, and rejuvenation. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to class. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode on the Life Coaching Classroom podcast, episode 60, which is the power of a plan. And if you are watching this on video podcast, you will see that I did a little redo to my studio over the last week of 2022. So happy New Year. This was one of my goals in 2022, and we're actually going to talk about that a little bit more in this podcast. But, before I do that, I wanted to share with you, when you have an idea, a vision, it gets you thinking. And when it gets you thinking, like you think about it a lot until it feels so aligned that you begin to take some action on it because your idea becomes like clearer and clearer. And that's exactly how I ended 2022. And it was really on my heart to create something that allows women to reconnect with their true self. I had visited this topic many years ago, and it's really the part of us that seeks more meaning in life, seeks more fulfillment, really wants that purpose to be driven, to be heart-centered, to be aligned with really who we are. And it's really the awakening of oneself and looking at life through the lens of unconditional self-love, nourishing that energetic alignment of mind, body, and soul, and really embracing the opportunities, the transitions, the challenges, everything of life. The thing is that it doesn't happen though overnight, and it doesn't happen without being a student on the journey of self-discovery. It really happens with accountability and support and discipline and commitment and validation. And it happens when you study the most important curriculum out there, and that is the curriculum of you. And when you begin this work, it's when we create a rippling effect, and our impact begins to ripple out to not only our families, like that close inner circle and our friends, but the many circles that ripple contains. And it's through our expansion of life that we create these energetic commitments, these commitments that shift us drastically when we reconnect with our heart. And it's that piece where it's like, hello there, true self. I've missed you. I'm so glad we're back together. The one thing I want you to realize is that the tackling and studying of this work can be overwhelming. It can be defeating. And when we are in that state, it really is a state that doesn't impact our growth positively. So when we can surround ourselves and be supported by like-minded women, it makes such a significant difference. So back to my vision, I created this beautiful online classroom where women just like you can walk down the path, the journey of self-discovery, and finally move beyond the feelings of mundane, and mediocre ways of life. Like, do you really want to pull all of that from 2022 and the past into 2023? No, of course not. So I want to ask you, would you be opposed to adding more fulfillment, more meaning, more purpose to your 2023? And if you answered no, I want to extend an invitation to you to be a first-class member in the Life Coaching Classroom. Yes, it is still in its quote unquote early elementary phases, but you're definitely going to want to be involved so that you can add your own insights and wisdom and be part of this collective change. As a first-class member, you're going to be looking at a special rate that you'll receive as long as you want to stay in class, even when the prices go up. That is the bonus of being a first-class member. Well, I should say one of the bonuses. So if you're not opposed to adding more fulfillment, more meaning, more purpose to your life, shoot me a direct message or email me at hello@lifecoachingclassroom.com, and I'm going to give you the rest of the amazing details. You are not going to want to miss out. Now, I want to take a minute and introduce myself because you may be new to this podcast. If you are, welcome. My name is Michelle Shutter. I am a life and leadership coach for women. I am the creator of the Life Coaching Classroom and host of this podcast, the Life Coaching Classroom podcast. And you might be thinking, well, what exactly is the Life Coaching Classroom, right? Well, we focus on 6 core components: heart, health, healing, harmony, humanity, and happiness. And within those 6 components, we really study a curriculum of reinvention. But that curriculum of reinvention is really about you. It's the curriculum of you, the study of you. And it is through this process that I teach that really allows women to reignite the fire within so that they can have more fulfillment, more meaning, more purpose in their life. And again, it is regardless of age. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can tap into this at any single moment. So welcome to this podcast. And as I mentioned, podcast number 60 is the power of a plan. And we might think, well, yeah, it's the new year. Here we go. We got to make resolutions, make goals, yada, yada, yada. Some people might think it's overrated, and perhaps it is. However, I want to offer you some different perspectives to look at throughout this podcast. So the first thing I want you to think about is it perhaps could be overrated, right? Setting goals, resolutions, the whole New Year hoopla. However, without a plan, where is your direction for the year? Where is your direction for 2023? Are you just going to keep the mundane and move that through 2023? Are you going to just still continue to live in the meh, the mediocre, right? Like, who wants that? If you're here listening to this podcast, I guarantee you, you do not want that. So if you have no direction, there's no discipline. And when we don't have those, it's very easy to fall into old patterns and to keep those old patterns. So I want you to start to shift in terms of, do I have some discipline? Do I have some direction in 2023? And if I don't, you have to question yourself. Why not? Why don't I have that? Now, goals have gotten a bad rap over time. And there was a time in my life where I was very driven, very, like, I want this goal, like I'm going for it, right? I am like, I was an athlete in my younger years, very competitive. Like you just go, you drive and you go for the W, right? And over time, it also was like draining for me. Like I was so much in that masculine energy in the goal setting and the goal getting and the goal hitting that end result that it can burn you out. And women have to be very conscious of this because we are always in that masculine energy and not tapping into our feminine energy. It does lead us to overwhelm and burnout. And because I was not aware of that feminine energy and really didn't learn how to tap into that, it really took me out of the game when it came to goal setting. There was a time where it's like, I don't want any goals. Like I'm just going to go on and do life. I'm going to still try to reach things, but I'm not going to write them down. I'm not going to have a clear plan. And that cost me a ton of time and it set me back. However, in every opportunity, in every challenge, in every transition of life, there is something to be learned to accelerate you. And so did I gain a lot of knowledge from not setting these goals? Absolutely. The one thing that I did, and one of the problems that I had when in terms of goals was like, I always wanted to set this big, audacious goal. And when you set those and you really don't get clear on your desires, even something as simple as redoing a room or a portion of the room, because I didn't even paint the whole office area here. I just painted a portion of it. When you set things that are not only measurable, but are simple, that allow you to create success in smaller steps, the feeling you generate inside of you is so powerful. But yet we think, or we've been conditioned to believe, that the only goals that we can have are these big, audacious goals. Now, what happens? Well, when we set those goals and they're so big and they're so far-fetched in a sense that we set ourselves up for disappointment. And we set ourselves up for disappointment because if we don't achieve it, we fail it. We fail at the goal. And fail, as we know, is also not a comfortable feeling within us. And when we are in this sense of failure, or when we perceive failure, our mind will do anything possible to keep us away from achieving that goal. It's like we have an addiction to disappointment. Yes, your body can create all the chemicals, all the cocktail needed to create disappointment in your body. So when you go to set this big goal, that body has that familiar feeling of, oh my gosh, it's going to be disappointed. So let's create all that chemical cocktail within our body so that when we start taking action or not taking action, that we can create disappointment. And it is a pattern then, because our body's addicted to it, that creates itself over and over and over again. And we want goals to be connected to our desires, to our heart's desires, to our dreams, whatever that is. Again, we cannot sit in this space and worry about, well, am I going to get that? What if I don't get it? Like, is our glass half full or is our glass half empty? When we start in this process, if our glass is already half empty, we are aligning with something below our goal. And we have to clear that up. We have to shift in a way that serves us. When we don't identify our desires, life doesn't have a meaning for us. It feels meaningless. It feels heavy at times. It feels dark. It feels like I don't want to move forward. When we don't have meaning, when we don't connect to those desires, life gets mundane. Life is meh. Life is mediocre. And so we wonder where all of that comes from. Well, it stems from not having a plan. And when we don't have that plan, we lack meaning in our life. Now, as I mentioned, our body is really programming itself to these feelings of disappointment. And when you're in a feeling of disappointment, are you developing good habits or are you developing bad habits? I guarantee you're not developing a whole lot of good habits. What are you doing? You're avoiding, you're scrolling, you're numbing yourself by going to the closet for food. Like, this has been me. I know. You stand at the fridge, right? Like, all of this. I'm going to do something else just to not have to take action on something that I want. Now, a mentor of mine, a coach of mine, had shared this. And, I knew this a while ago, but sometimes it takes a while for it to land or for it to resurface to really like fully get it. The goal is never about achieving that end result. Okay, so let's just use weight loss, for example, because health is always a top, resolution in the start of the new year. Let's say you want to, release 20 pounds. It's never about stepping on that scale and seeing that number 20 pounds less. It's not about that. And that, because we are so focused on that scale, right? That number, we lose sense of the journey of the goal. So the goal is not getting that number. The goal is about the journey. It's about the revealing, the growth that is there for you. It is about, the movement of moving from that place of, here's where I'm at, and I'm going to start chipping away at it. I'm going to start chipping away at the layers. I'm going to start, erasing some of the darkness and letting the light in. It is really the revealing of the true self. That's what the goal is about, but we've lost all perspective about the goal because we've become so focused on that number, on the end result. Goals just really awaken us to the true meaning of life. Because when we can contribute our gifts, when we align with our desires, and we see that part of this is, oh my gosh, like by me creating a plan and taking action to achieve this goal, to achieve the growth in this journey, it impacts so many other people. I can collectively contribute to the expansiveness of others because I am expanding myself. And again, we lose sight of that because we have taken our gifts, and because of life circumstances, because of different stages of our life, we've taken these gifts and we've buried them, or we've put them on a shelf in the closet and we've put them way at the back and we've shut the door. And over time, we forget that they're there. And that goal is not, again, to strive to be better. You are already perfect, worthy, loving, beautiful, compassionate, kind, all the beautiful aspects of life. You are already that. You've already been blessed with that. But over time, we forget that all of that is there on a regular basis. Sure, we may remember it around, Thanksgiving or our birthday or the holidays. But what about when we get to the middle of February and everything just feels, ugh. Everything that perhaps you wanted to start the new year with is gone. And maybe it doesn't even take you to the middle of February. Maybe it takes you to the middle of January. Then what? Our goals are there to support us in that journey of remembering who we are, of bringing us back to our true self, bringing us back to our gifts. Because let's face it, if you're a mom as well, our gifts can easily be covered up by everything that you have to do as a mom, right? Whether it's, their schedules, the homework, meals, laundry, if you're the gift shopper, if you are the taxi driver, like you go through and make a list of how many things you do on a regular basis, right? You will see that it feels like there's no time for my gifts. There is time for your gifts, but you have to create that muscle to prioritize it. And we don't do that. We take our stuff, we put it in a box, we stick it on a shelf, and we throw it at the back of a closet. And we're like, someday I'll come back. No, no. And if you've done that, bless yourself, give yourself some grace, and know that now is the time you pull that off the shelf. Now is the time you open that back up, because life is kind of like a spiral, right? So think of you like here, just in a center, and you can spiral upward and you can spiral downward. And sometimes those coils are far apart and sometimes those coils are really close together. When you spiral downward, it feels like you're moving really fast because downward has no plan, has no meaning. It creates disconnection and it moves us further away from our true self. When you spiral upward, it feels like it's not moving as fast. It feels like it's taking longer. And it can, depending on where you are in terms of your alignment, in terms of your thoughts and your feelings and your actions. But it's also feels like it takes longer because going upward feels unfamiliar because we've conditioned ourselves to believe that we have to live in that downward spiral, even if it's unconscious. That when we are, though, in that upward spiral, in the end of it all, we have moved faster because we have connected to our true self. So what I want to ask you here as I end this episode is, when is the last time you identified fulfillment in terms of what you want versus what you don't want. Have you gotten really clear on that? Have you gotten really clear on your true desires? Who are you today? What desires do you want to bring forward? What aspects of you are you going to leave behind? I call this like the old self, the new self. This is a great tool that will be available in the life coaching classroom, by the way. But if you haven't taken time to identify your desires, why not? What is holding you back? What is that plan that you're avoiding? So that new perspective I want you to think about is a couple things here, right? Is without that plan, where's your direction? And if you're not having some direction in your life, that's a perspective you want to change. You want to be able to have some direction and discipline because that direction, that discipline gives you meaning. The goals bring you meaning to your life. Another perspective is that it's not about the final number. Setting the goal is not the final number. It is that journey that you'll be on, that journey of self-discovery where you get to discover more about you and who you are and your true self. Also, keep in mind that the goal does not have to be a big, audacious goal that will in turn set you up for disappointment because you're afraid to fail. Again, like a goal that I had was I want to redo a little area of my office. It wasn't a big, audacious goal, but I had some clear steps on what I wanted to do. And finally, I want you to think about life as that spiral. Are you spiraling upward or are you spiraling downward? Get conscious of it. Be aware of it. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, I had this beautiful vision that I brought forward and created this beautiful online life coaching classroom. So I want to ask you, again, would you be opposed to adding more meaning, more purpose, more fulfillment to your life in 2023? Because one of the things that we are going to tackle head on here is the power of a plan. And I have an amazing tool to give you to map this out for you. Because there is more to it than just the desire. You've got to connect with it in a whole new way. And I'm going to share that with the first class members, the first class students in the life coaching classroom. So if you are not opposed to adding more meaning, more fulfillment, more purpose into your life in 2023, send me a direct message at Michelle Shutter, whether you're on Instagram or Facebook, or you can send me an email. And that email is hello@lifecoachingclassroom.com. Let's make 2023 a year where you embrace all of you and reconnect to yourself and your deepest desires that reside within your heart. I can't wait to see you in class because that is where the magic is going to happen. Take care. Have you joined our monthly unit study? If not, you better head on over and reserve your seat at lifecoachingclassroom.com/unit. The unit study gives you an opportunity to experience life coaching at no charge. Again, register and get all the details at lifecoachingclassroom.com/unit. I do have a favor. Could you take a moment to share this podcast and Life Coaching Classroom with your besties? Perhaps they too are tired of running down the meh and mundane hallways of life. Let's give them a little spark in their day. Finally, I'd be so grateful if you take a minute to review the podcast. The reviews definitely help to spread the podcast to more women. Thank you. I so appreciate you, and I will see you in class.